I want to ask you about China because I remember in the 1980s in the United States, or into the 1990s, the overwhelming economic discourse was about fear-mongering about Japan and its rising economic power. They're buying all of our buildings. They're taking over our industries. There's no stopping them. And apparently there was some stopping them because none of that really happened, these scenarios that were depicted. But now we're hearing very much the same thing, the same kind of rhetoric about China, that they're rapidly growing so fast that they're going to have parity with the United States in terms of purchasing power. They're going to be this unstoppable economic force. There's a lot of talk about them having to be our implacable enemy and at least Cold War type competitor or adversary. What do you think from a Western perspective and an American perspective is the right way to understand what one might call the threats or challenges posed by a rising China?
Yeah, I must declare at the beginning that I'm not a fan of any country. I'm a citizen of South Korea. Korea has been bullied by, everyone around us for the last few thousand years. Chinese, Japanese, the Mongols, the Manchus, and the Huns, and the later Russians and Americans. Whatever I say about Japan, China, and so on, is not because I'm particularly fond of or hate that particular country. I hate all the countries equally, if you want me to put it that way. So, yeah, the rise of Japan was halted partly because Japan got bullied into opening its the financial market, and accepting huge the revaluation of the currency in the 1985 Plaza Accord. So once that happened, there was a huge financial bubble. It burst. The Japanese didn't manage the aftermath very well, and then the economy went into permanent depression. And it was seen off in that way, and that happened. Mainly, if not even not partly, because Japan was dependent on the U.S. On the military, because when they lost the Pacific War, they were forced to signed this the constitution, which prevented it from having a sizable army, and then the U.S. military is stationed in Japan, and so in that sense, it's that even though it was rising economically, it's that the political position was subordinate that of the U.S. China doesn't have that problem. And actually, from Chinese point of view, the U.S. is the aggressor because basically China is surrounded by, U.S. Navy and Army bases, almost all across this border, except the one that it share with Russia. You have the U.S. Army stationed in South Korea, as well as the air forces, the South China Sea is kind of covered with the U.S. Navy presence, and you name it. So China is not going to play that game that Japan had to play. So it's not going to accept the financial liberalization, which is the easiest way to undermine a rising economy, because China, does not have the kind of the financial power, and I'm not just talking about money, but the financial institutions and the skills that people who work in the financial industry has, and so on, that you can mobilize to fight the American financial power, whereas that it can't, and it is fighting the American power in terms of production and international trade and so on. So my prediction is that China will not play that game, which means that a big problem for the U.S. Yeah? Because first of all, it's not as if this is, as some people argue, the second, Cold War. In the real Cold War, there was no real economic relationship between the Soviet bloc and the U.S. bloc. Yeah? This time, I mean, China and the U.S., these economies are deeply intertwined. Yeah? China is the biggest trading partner with the U.S. After the EU and the NAFTA countries. Yeah, I mean it owns 13% of the U.S. The Treasury bills. Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, is that the role as a source of the affordable, good quality consumer goods that is very, very critical to American political economy. So, the U.S. cannot push it around in the way that it could with Japan. More importantly, what the U.S. has been doing in the last several years, and this is not just Trump, yeah, I mean, even from the days of Obama, but more clearly the Biden, it has been actually the pushing China into catching up faster, yeah? Because of all these restrictions on the high-grade microchips and the key technologies. China, they say necessities mother of invention. China's come up with these ways of doing the same things with less resources and lower technologies. Yeah? So when Biden made the Dutch companies, German companies not to export the lithographic machines that make the circuit board for semiconductors. I mean, the Americans thought, now that this will make it impossible for the Chinese to have the latest the microchips. But lo and behold, within a couple of years, it found a way to make the latest 7-nanometer chips without using the latest machines from the Dutch and the Germans. I mean, lately, this the Chinese AI company DeepSeek has kind of created an economic earthquake by creating an AI that with a fraction of the cost that the American companies are using. So yeah, I mean, if the U.S. really wanted to push back China, it should have started 20 years ago. Now it's too close. Putting more pressure on China will not necessarily, but most likely to bring forward the day when it catches up with the United States and the rest of the world. And this is why the U.S. and the EU are panicking and breaking all the rules of the WTO and other international institutions that they were so insistent on upholding, because now they are desperate to fend off China. But without a coherent industrial strategy and without reforming the leaky, the parasitic financial system, I'm afraid that they are not going to be able to do that.
Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.